Human skeletal system. Skeletal system consists of a framework of bones and a few cartilages. This system has a significant role in movement shown by the body. Imagine chewing food without jaw bones and walking around without the limb bones. Bone and cartilage are specialized connective tissues. Bone has a very hard matrix due to calcium salts in it, and cartilage has slightly pliable matrix due to chondroitin salts. In human beings, this system is made up of 206 bones and a few cartilages. It is grouped into two principal divisions, the axial and the appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton comprises 80 bones distributed along the main axis of the body. The skull, vertebral column, sternum, and ribs constitute axial skeleton. The skull is composed of two sets of bones, cranial and facial. The totals of 22 bones. Cranial bones are 8 in number. They form the hard protective outer covering, cranium for the brain. The facial region is made up of 14 skeletal elements which form the front part of the skull. A single U-shaped bone called hyoid is present at the base of the buccal cavity, and it is also included in the skull. Each middle ear contains 3 tiny bones, malleus, incus, and steps, collectively called ear ossicles. The skull region articulates with the superior region of the vertebral column with the help of two occipital condyles, that is dicondyle skull. Our vertebral column is formed by 26 serially arranged units called vertebra and is dorsally placed. It extends from the base of the skull and constitutes the main framework of the trunk. Each vertebra has a central hollow portion, that is neural canal, through which the spinal cord passes. First vertebra is the atlas, and it articulates with the occipital condyles. The vertebral column is differentiated into cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal regions starting from the skull. The number of cervical vertebrae are 7 in almost all mammals, including human beings. The vertebral column, it protects the spinal cord, supports the head, and serves as the point of attachment for the ribs and musculature of the back. Sternum is a flat bone on the ventral midline of thorax. There are 12 pairs of ribs. Each rib is a thin, flat bone connected dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to the sternum. It has two articulation surfaces on its dorsal end and is hence called bicephalic. First 7 pairs of ribs are called true ribs. Dorsally, they are attached to the thoracic vertebra and ventrally connected to the sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage. The 8th, 9th and 10th pairs of ribs do not articulate directly with the sternum but join the 7th rib with the help of hyaline cartilage. These are called vertebrochondral or false ribs. Last 2 pairs, that is 11th and 12th of ribs, are not connected ventrally and are therefore called floating ribs. Thoracic vertebra, ribs and sternum together form the rib cage. The bones of the limbs along with their girdles constitute the appendicular skeleton. Each limb is made of 30 bones. The bone of the hand, that is 4 limbs, are humerus, radius and ulna. Carpals, that is wrist bone, 8 in number. Metacarpals, palm bones, that is 5 in number. And phalanges, that is 14 in number. Femur, that is thigh bone, the longest bone. Tibia and fibula tarsals, that is ankle bone, 7 in number. Metatarsals, 5 in number. and phalanges, disease 14 in number, are the bones of the legs, that is hind limb. A cup-shaped bone called patella cover the knee ventrally, that is the kneecap. Pectoral and pelvic girdle bones help in the articulation of the upper and the lower limbs respectively with the axial skeleton. Each girdle is formed of two halves. Each half of the pectoral girdle consists of a clavicle and a scapula. Scapula is a large triangular flat bone situated in dorsal part of the thorax between second and seventh ribs. Scapula has a slightly elevated ridge, that is spine, which projects as a flat expanded process called the acromion. The clavicle, that is the collar bone, articulates with this. Below the acromion is glenoid cavity, which articulates with the head of humerus to form the shoulder joint. Pelvic girdles consist of two coxal bones. Each coxal bone is formed by the fusion of three bones, ilium, ischium, and pubis. At the point of fusion of the above bones is a cavity called acetabulum, to which the thigh bone articulates. The two halves of the pelvic girdle meet ventrally to form pubic symphysis containing fibrous cartilage. Next are the joints. Joints are essential for all types of movements involving the bony parts of the body. Locomotory movements are no exception to this. Joints are points of contact between bones or between bones and cartilages. Force generated by the muscles is used to carry out movement through joints, where the joint acts as a fulcrum. The movability of these joints vary depending on different factors. Joints have been classified into three major structural forms, namely fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. Fibrous joints do not allow any movement. This type of joint is shown by the flat skull bones, which fuse end to end with the help of dense fibrous connective tissues in the form of sutures to form the cranium. In cartilaginous joints, the bones involved are joined together with the help of cartilages. The joint between the adjacent vertebra in the vertebral column is of this pattern and it permits limited movements. Synovial joints are characterized by the presence of a fluid-filled synovial cavity between the articulating surfaces of the two bones. Such an arrangement allows considerable movement. These joints help in locomotion and many other movements. Ball and socket joint between humerus and pectoral girdle, hinge joint between knee joint, pivot joint between atlas and axis, gliding joint between the carpals, and saddle joint between carpal and metacarpal of thumb are some of the examples of or the types of synovial joint. You can also see the diagrams of the various kinds of joints here in the slide. Now let's talk about disorders of muscular and skeletal systems. The first one is the myasthenia gravis, autoimmune disorder affecting neuromuscular junction leading to fatigue, weakening and paralysis of skeletal muscle is the myasthenia gravis. Next is muscular dystrophy. What happens? Progressive degeneration of skeletal muscle, mostly due to genetic disorder, takes place in this kind of disorder. Third one is the tetany, that is rapid spasm. Spasm means wild contractions in muscle due to low calcium ions in body fluid. Arthritis, what is it? It is the inflammation of joints. Osteoporosis. It is age-related disorder characterized by decreased bone mass and increased chances of fractures. Decreased levels of estrogen is a common cause of such disease. The last one is the gout. Inflammation of joints due to accumulation of uric acid crystals lead to this disorder known as gout. Thank you all.